Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Hangout with the Buck Institute for Education. I'm Gina Olabwanaga, Curriculum and Faculty Manager here at BIE. Today we'll be focusing on how to support English learners in project-based learning. The Hangout will take a close look at a primary grades project, and you can expect the Hangout to last about 30 minutes. Viewers can ask questions on the event page on Google+, and we will answer them during the Hangout if we can, or afterwards on the event page. The Hangout will be archived at bie.org, so tell your friends and colleagues they can see it there if they're not able to watch it live with us right now. And with that, we are joined today by some wonderful guests, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves. And let's start with you, Abby.
Hi, my name is Abby Shore, and I am a second grade teacher at Catherine Smith Elementary School in San Jose and a BIE National Faculty Member.
And Liliana?
Hello, everyone. My name is Liliana Lopez, and I am a supervisor of world languages, English language learners, and music here in humid New Jersey today.
Thank you to both of you ladies for joining us. So before we jump in, since our topic today is about English learners and how to support them in a project, I wanted to start with just unpacking and maybe dispelling the myth a little bit about PBL and English learners. So could you ladies speak to why is PBL a good teaching approach for students who are learning English? And let's start with you, Liliana.
Thank you. When thinking about actively involving every single student in a project and reaching every learner, PBL works for everybody. And thinking about our English learners, we really intentionally plan a project with them in mind, and we set them up for success in academic language, social language, collaborative language. I mean, you name the language, and the student with the planning of a PBL teacher will reach and be able to communicate in every which way, reading, writing, listening, and it meets so many of their needs. So it's just exciting to see our students participate, be a part of PBL projects.
Yeah, and I think Liliana said it perfectly, and that PBL really builds in so many opportunities for language development in an authentic, rich experience for students, and so you're able to see students reach those high levels because of their engagement and the authentic experiences that they're participating in. And so project-based learning provides the teacher as the planner as well as the students so many different ways in order to access the language of their curriculum.
Great, thank you for that. So Abby, why don't we go ahead and jump right in and tell us about your Digging for Dinos project.
So the Digging for Dinos is a second grade project, and on the screen you can see the entry event for this project where students dug up a replica dinosaur fossil in the school garden. And as soon as this happened, the students generated a list of any kind of creature that this giant fossil could belong to, and they finally determined that it must belong to a dinosaur. So we launched with the driving question of what happened to the dinosaurs. And from there, students generated a really rich list of need-to-know questions that they were eager to find out about the dinosaurs. And so students started out with inquiry around fossils and learning about what a paleontologist does. From there, we talked about 5 different dinosaurs, and students used QR codes to research different types of dinosaurs before picking their favorite and most interesting one. And they created a digital story using the app ScribblePress. And this digital story told all about this dinosaur, where it lived, what type of things it probably ate, if it was a predator or prey, and some interesting facts about it. And then after they made these books, they were really, really interested about what happened to the dinosaurs and why they don't see Tyrannosaurus rexes walking around our neighborhood. And so that launched us into a really authentic experience where they were talking about, what happened to these dinosaurs, and they were to make a claim about what theory of extinction they thought was the most valid and support it with evidence. And as an early primary teacher, it was really tough to think about how we were going to support making a claim and supporting it with evidence. And so we actually created a simulation where students, something went missing from our classroom, the dinosaur fossil, and they had to make a claim as to who took it and support it with evidence that was left behind in the classroom. And you can see that on the screen right now, a student who made the claim that our principal, Mr. Brengard, took the dinosaur bone and supported it with evidence like his footprints and his walkie-talkie and his tie were left behind. And after we did this, we saw an immediate, it kind of clicked for the students when they were saying that they thought that an asteroid impact was the claim that really caused the dinosaurs to be extinct, and this was the evidence to prove it. So after that, they created a paragraph stating that claim and supporting it with evidence using different types of graphic organizers and scaffolds. Throughout the project, we had a math deliverable to the students were learning about measurement, and then they created their very own dinosaur using specific guidelines, inches, feet, and yards that we set for them. And then at the end, they held a dinosaur exhibit where they read their scribble press stories. They shared their claim about what happened to the dinosaurs. They shared their giant dinosaur models, and they even ended it with a flash mob.
Nice work. There was a lot going on in that project, and you certainly hit upon the things that both you and Liliana mentioned in the opening question about the different aspects of language development, where students are not only building their listening and speaking skills, but having the opportunity to write at a high level and to read informational content-based texts in order to do that work. So really exciting stuff. With that, I'm gonna hand over these next series of questions over to Liliana to dig in a little deeper with the project and what it meant to support your English learners through that process. So Liliana, I'm gonna hand it off to you.
Thank you. Abby, I want to take us back to the entry event that you described. Tell us, why and how you chose that particular entry event, keeping English learners in mind. How did you know that was going to be successful for them?
Yeah, well, we wanted to make sure that it was something relatable, something concrete, something that the students could think back to as we talked about the entry event. And so having them actually dig up that fossil from the garden really, really made it concrete for them. I mean, they still talked about it until the last day of school, talking about digging up that dinosaur fossil. And when they came back to the classroom and generated all of those, the list of all of the possible creatures and animals that they thought it could possibly belong to, we got a really great idea of the language that the students already had. And it was a really telling experience for us as teachers to be able to kind of guide the rest of the project. Yeah.
I think about really how you tap into their background knowledge right away from this concrete, and a dinosaur is in any language, our second graders, our elementary students will know all about that. So it's exciting to see that, to see you right away tap into that, to their background knowledge. And thinking about that, about their background knowledge, and thinking about the final product that you had in mind, what type of graphic organizer was created to really scaffold the writing part for your published writing piece?
That's a great question, because I think as we talk about project-based learning and we're building background knowledge, a lot of times we're talking about the content within the project, but especially with early primary and English learners, we have to build the knowledge and those language skills for them to be able to access that final deliverable. And so when I look at planning with my team, we really talk about the content area, like we talked about how are they going to learn about the dinosaurs and the fossils and what paleontologists do. But we also talked about how are they going to be able to form sentences with a subject and a predicate. How are they going to be able to use transition words in a paragraph? And so both of those things went along with building the background knowledge. Now, we used a lot of different type of graphic organizers, and some of them have been showing on the screen up here. This one is a claim frame that some of the students used, where they were able to use their research, and I think on the next page it'll show how we organized their research, but they used the research to fill out the frame. So yeah, this was the graphic organizer that they used, where in their own words they wrote what happened during that theory of extinction. Here is the evidence that scientists have found, and then we had them visualize it by drawing a picture of it, because that's really, really important for the students to connect it with an image. As often as we could, we tried to use videos from the internet, pictures, books, in order to help build their knowledge.
Yeah, I could see a beginner student immediately like being able to access the content because they are able to draw a picture and they are able to make connections to the information that they already know, and then move them forward in using language, which is so important there. And you're setting them up with that, setting them up for success using these graphic organizers, which is really exciting for them. Talking a little bit about the peer critique moments, those moments where they collaborate with each other and provide feedback. What role did that peer evaluation or critique paired with effective feedback play throughout the project? How did you set them up for success using that type of language?
Well, I know that we all find that critique, especially from peers, is a crucial part of the project, and we can't forget that it doesn't just come at the end. It's not just right when you're getting ready for the exhibition or when they're finishing their deliverable. It needs to come at really strategic times so that students can really use that feedback. And so one of the ways that we do that is a lot of modeling, and we do, expected behaviors or expected results when you're working in a group, and we do a lot of like a fishbowl activity so that the students can, really understand what it looks like to be a team member. A really effective rubric that we use is the K2 BIE teamwork rubric. It's so easy and quick for the students to use, and we start out with it by showing, these are the expectations. You're working with your group, you're sharing, and then in the end of that that day, they can go back and really assess themselves and their team. But most of all, we use Critical Friends, and it's a very structured version where we, use the frames of I likes and I wonders, and we really give the students the opportunity to kind of brainstorm what things they may like or may wonder so that they can have those sentences and language kind of frames ready for them. A simple way that we did it is I had my students reading their Scribble Press book, and the students were listening and just doing a thumbs up for sound or thumbs down. They were just doing it based on the volume of their voice while they were reading the story. And so it's hard for them to give feedback around the entire, product, but what we did is we really focused on really specific things. So in this round of Critical Friends or in this round of critique, we're just going to listen for, are they reading with a loud voice? And the students were able to give them really specific feedback around that. But yeah, I think the most important thing with critique is a lot of modeling and a lot of support for the students so that they can be successful.
And I could see every type of EL student, like with varying proficiency levels, being able to do a thumbs up or thumbs down or provide more feedback if needed, and extending their sentences and their thoughts that way. And thinking about that and assessment, what expectations were had for these varying proficiency levels of EL students? We have beginning students, emerging students, we have bridging students. When thinking about how we describe every type of student, how did you, what expectations did you have for them?
Well, we want to make sure that all of the students can participate and have access to the rigorous content and be able to achieve that final deliverable. And so, when we planned the claim paragraph that you're seeing on the screen right now, we believe and know that all students should be able to demonstrate their knowledge at their proficiency level. And so, we're not going to say that the product is going to change. What it is their journey to get there, or the steps that they need to get there might look a little bit different. So when I look at my students, I think about students who are exploring, meaning that they're needing, significant scaffolds and support. They're applying, they need some scaffolds and support, and they're integrating. They need very minimal scaffolds or support in order to achieve that final deliverable. And so for that group that's exploring, they may have dictated their claim and their evidence. We might have done a sort where we showed the claim and they were able to identify which pieces of evidence went along with that claim. And then that closed kind of paragraph that you saw earlier where there was, kind of fill in the blanks, we used those for our students that were exploring so that they could really still be able to formulate the paragraph but have that structure there. And then, students that maybe needed a little bit less scaffolding used sentence frames, but they wrote the paragraph on their own, and they were able to maybe identify 1 to 2 pieces of critical evidence, but maybe needed help or worked it with a group to come up with a third. And then our students that were integrating, meaning that they were able to produce the paragraph with minimal scaffolds, were able to use transition words effectively, were able to have subjects and predicates without any support from the teacher, and were able to, state the claim with 3 pieces of evidence in a organized paragraph. And so, although all of the student paragraphs, looked as if they all, got to the same place, their journey was very different. And that's what's really important to realize, as a teacher of any students, but especially with English learners, that they may need more supports and scaffolds, but their ability to get to that final product, they're just, everybody is just equally as able. They just might need a little bit of extra help along the way.
That's why another reason why PBL is so amazing, because every student is going to demonstrate success, and we're going to celebrate that success because they're all going to have this final product, and everyone's going to be every student is so proud of the work that they did at their level and with the support that, the varying support needed for every child. So that's why another reason why PBL is so amazing. And you've kind of touched about my final question. You've kind of touched upon you've spoken about this. How were EL students supported in regards to oral language, especially that exhibition night when they have to do this presentation and a lot of beginners, those different varying levels? How did you support them?
Yeah, well, you never want a student to feel uncomfortable going into exhibition night because, like you said, it is a celebration. We're celebrating their work and we're celebrating their growth, and you want everybody to feel successful. And so on the screen right now was an activity that the students did in groups where they kind of reflected on the project, talking about what their driving question was, what need to know did they find the most interesting, what was their favorite deliverable, what do you think happened to the dinosaurs. So these were just kind of framing questions to get them to start thinking about what they might talk to visitors about at exhibition. And then on the next screen, you'll see actual question cards that we created. We cut these cards up and gave them to students to work with in teams. So they would actually ask each other these questions. And these were things that we know that visitors might ask about their project. And this was a place where students were able to really practice using complete sentences, practice answering the question confidently. And then as teachers, we kind of walked around and we listened, and then we picked one of those questions that we really thought they were the most confident in. And on their name tag that they wore at exhibition night, it said like paleontologist Abby, and then it said ask me about the velociraptor. And so we picked something that they were really successful in. So even if a parent didn't know what to ask, they would look at their name tag and say, oh, I'm going to ask you about the velociraptor, and that's something immediately that they have a lot of language to talk about. So that was a few ways that we prepare them for exhibition. But then, like you said, the most important part is that you're celebrating the success of the project and how well they've done, reaching those final goals.
Thank you so much for answering my questions, Abby. I'd love to see what you shared. It's so exciting to see our Ls take advantage of everything that your project has to offer, because we're moving from that, EL being in the back of the room, not participating, to being even in charge, I bet, of some of the things. So it's just exciting to see our Ls be supported in the way that you do in your project.
Thank you.
And thank you for those great questions, Liliana and Abby, for sharing about your project. And I just wanted to highlight for our audience that Abby, the project that she created, built in differentiation and scaffolding for English learners from the very beginning of the project, beginning with the launch, through to the building knowledge stage where students are trying to gather information and make sense of it. They're engaging in the inquiry process. And then also scaffolded and supported in the develop and critique phase, where students are starting to refine their work, to make improvements so that way they can be successful at the end. And then even in the final presentations, having tools and strategies in place to help students be successful and articulate the things that they learned at the level that they're able to articulate it in, given their language development. So really exciting work, and even if there are high school teachers or middle school teachers watching this thinking, I'm not sure how this applies to me, those are strategies that you can also use to support your language learners in accessing the content and then sharing out their learnings with others. So, so nicely done. I want to thank both of our guests and give you guys give you ladies an opportunity to share any final thoughts or closing words on project-based learning and how to support English language learners in a project. So actually, let's start with you, Abby.
So I hope that this Hangout has helped people to see how, it can be done anywhere. And you think about with English learners or any type of students that need support in any circumstances, this, project-based learning lends itself so well to differentiation and scaffolding, where all students can feel successful. They're kind of on a personalized learning path in a way. They're working towards, everybody kind of has the same goal at the end, but everybody, like I said, journey is a little different. And, when I look back on this project and reflect on it, I think that the students were really all able to be thinking critically at such a young age, too, which is really great to see them really questioning, the evidence that scientists have found about extinction. And one thing that I did want to mention is that when we started planning this project, although you might think that it's a science project, it was really a language arts project. And I think it was clear from talking about it that most of our deliverables and our objectives were that students were able to make a claim and support it with evidence, either through nonfiction texts that they had read or situations that they had experienced. So in planning as a teacher, really think about, you can choose an engaging topic that students will be really interested in and still cover those really rigorous language arts and EL standards that you need to cover in your classroom. So I hope that this can help teachers feel ready and confident to do something like this in their own classroom.
And I echo everything that Abby says. There's nothing better than having the teacher set up every single student for success, and everything that works well for an EL student works well for every single child. So it's like, what are the best ways that we can reach all learners? And when we intentionally plan a project knowing the needs of all our learners, everyone is going to be successful. And knowing that PBL is the best way to do it, because from the beginning we start with that end product in mind, or that end, that what we want every student to achieve. So I echo everything that Abby says, and I hope that teachers will take a step in that direction and know that it's a little bit scary, but we can do it. If we have second graders talking about dinosaurs, I know that we have all types of levels of ELs that can do it.
And to echo the team, we do hope that this has invited you to think about how you can support your English learners in project-based learning. So if you're on the fence about PBL, jumping in and taking the step, or if you're already doing projects and you're struggling with thinking about how to support your EL students in your classroom, hopefully this gives you some ideas so you can start that process. As a note, BIE is continuing to create more resources for EL students and how to support them in a project. So we're going to be rolling those out over the summer. So stay tuned for that. We're excited to share that work and support all of you in the field, because we know that equality is not everyone getting the same thing, but everyone getting what they need. And so we want to make sure that you are able to support all of your learners, because we do believe this is the great equalizer in education, and that this is the way to engage students in meaningful, real-world work that's going to really make the learning that they're doing in school concrete and meaningful for them. So thank you again, ladies, for joining us and talking about this incredible work. We will answer any questions that were not answered or that come up later during the Google Hangout. We will continue the conversation on BIE's Google Plus profile page and in the PBL community on Google Plus. As a reminder, and that's a school bell, the summer is almost here, everyone. Alrighty, and so as a reminder, this Hangout will be archived on BIE.org along with a summary that will include links to Abby's project and student work, so you can take a look at what she did and continue to learn from it. We will be hosting Hangouts again during our PBL World Conference, which begins next week, June 22nd through the 26th. So stay tuned for details on those different topics. As always, we're excited to share the work. We appreciate you being here, and happy PBLing. Thanks for joining us. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.